Welcome, everyone. You're listening to the Dateable AF podcast because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I am your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm a co-host, Rachel Howell, a researcher extraordinaire and a single lesbian dater.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Dateable AF podcast. Our topic today is okay, but why are you still texting her? She ghosted you. She's flaky. She sends thinking of you texts once a month, but let's break the cycle, even if it means deleting her special playlist.
That may be a bridge.
Special playlist.
That may be a bridge too far if there's good music in it.
You don't have to delete the playlist.
All right.
Let's start with this question for our listeners. Are you still texting with somebody who ghosts you? Or is this maybe one of those questions that you're just asking for a friend?
Well, why do we stay attached to people who don't actually show up for us? And are there reasons why? And of course, there are reasons why, and we're going to talk about those reasons why today. But it's a complicated question.
Yeah. And I think we've all been there where we wanted to believe something about someone that maybe wasn't true and we just got strung along. So let's talk about the kinds of people that sort of suck us into this. The first one I'd like to talk about is just a ghoster, like someone who initially seems really interested and then all of a sudden they just disappear. They vanish completely.
That's a mystery to me. I have to just be honest about that. That is a mystery to me. What's behind the person that reaches out and then just disappears, especially if they actually reach out and establish some significant connection with you, and then it's like they just walk off the cliff or something.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's satisfying at all to be the one doing it. What is that? I mean, from a psychological standpoint, you have to explain that to me, Dr. Kyle.
Well, we've touched on this before in previous episodes, but there are a few different reasons why someone just ghosts you. But I think the main reason that I see is just people want to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. It's like Irish goodbying at a party. You don't want to say goodbye, so you just skate out the door. It's the same thing. You just, slowly fade off of someone's radar. And another reason is that maybe you had some other people in the hopper. You were backburnering somebody and you wanted to keep staying in touch with them just in case one of the others didn't work out. And then there are people who kind of have more nefarious motives. I've talked to you about this before, but somebody who maybe is in a relationship and they're on the apps just to entertain themselves, chatting it up with a bunch of different people, but really having no intention at all of ever continuing it on or meeting them in person. And so they eventually just disappear.
As we talk about this topic, I would think that to me, that one is the easiest one, the least complicated. I'm looking at it from the outside of going, yeah, no, that person, any of those reasons you mentioned to me are a no-go.
Yeah.
So to me, the ghosting, either you're engaging with someone who's not big girl enough to just say, hey, I think I'm probably not going to engage in this anymore because I've found somebody else or I'm doing this other thing or whatever you're doing, but put a period on the end of it.
Yeah, like you're not. And we cannot say this enough. Just communicate with the person. Say, hey, you're a great person, but you're not for me. Or I don't want to see you anymore, but don't leave the person hanging because it's really kind of cruel. Don't do that.
And if we're talking about situations where this happens and there's both sides of this. You don't want it done to you. And I think most people who have outdated have had this happen. So yeah. I don't think that's uncommon at all. As we know, statistically, it's one of the big things that happens.
Yeah.
But also checking your own behavior, because if you're doing it, then you're one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't want somebody to do it to me, but I'm going to do it to somebody else. No, don't do that. Of course. Yeah. So really, our topic today is about being the person on the other end of this. So if you're engaging with someone online or by text and they disappear, how long do you stay involved? How long do you keep texting them?
Lop them off like a bad limb. Fast.
Off like a bad limb. I wholeheartedly agree. So how, from your perspective, if you were engaging with someone and texting back and forth, and then you stopped hearing from them, what would you do next?
I would simply text them back and say, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm assuming that you're moving on, and so am I.
Okay. And then just let that be
done.
So you would have one more text with them.
Okay. I would be done.
And maybe some of our listeners cannot lop people off quite as quickly as you can. So if you're someone who is less inclined to just do that final lop off, I think it would be okay to send them maybe 2 additional texts. Like you haven't heard from them, so you text them and say, hey, haven't heard from you. Is everything okay? You don't hear back from them again. I would maybe send one more courtesy text saying something like you suggested. Hey, it seems like you're moving on. Me too. Best of luck.
I recently had a conversation about this with someone who, what clearly seemed like a ghost. She was ghosting someone that she had been texting, and they had actually said they were going to connect with each other. And I guess I am kind of harsh around this because when it was 2 weeks beyond when she said she would reconnect with this person. And I was like, oh my God, they think you've ghosted them.
Yeah, and that is unacceptable.
But the other person did come back to her and did just what you mentioned. And she said, hey, I thought I was going to hear from you. Is everything okay? Just want to check in to see if there's something here that I'm missing. And then my friend responded and said, oh, no, I'm sorry. I've just been busy and blah, blah, blah.
To lop your friend off like a bad limb.
Well, I think there was just a moment of this awareness because the person, my friend, is a really great person. And I think there was just this moment of awareness where I just said, hey, most people, had that been me, Miss Lop It Off, I would have sent her the one text that went, hey, you said you were going to text me like 2 weeks ago when you got back in town or whatever you're doing. I haven't heard from you. See ya.
Yeah. And so did you challenge your friend about don't do that to people? Yes. If you say 2 weeks, then call them back. Or if you say this weekend, text them this weekend.
If you really, if you really actually think you want to see them again, whether it be for a friend or whatever, you definitely need to, because that's not sending the message that you want to see them again. If you don't want to see them again, then say it.
Yeah, just be direct about it. Yes, and if you're on the other side of someone who is ghosting you, don't drag it out. Let it go. If they haven't responded to 2 of your texts, move on. So that leads us into another situation that I find to be even trickier, which is breadcrumbing. And if you don't know what that is and you're listening to us, breadcrumbing is when someone gives you just enough to keep you following the trail, just enough to keep you interested. So maybe they don't completely disappear, but you don't hear from them for a few weeks. Or maybe once a month, they're going to send you a, hey, what are you doing kind of text, or hey, thinking about you kind of text. This situation is not as clear cut as ghosting.
It's not. I think a lot of people get caught up in that. And I can see why, because it's not clean. And oftentimes, if you really are interested in the person, like there was a spark from the beginning, you thought they're engaging you just enough to make you want to sort of lean into it. And then you're kind of hopeful. And just about the time that maybe, and I think people that do this are pretty smooth at it, and it's just about the time that you might be falling off and going, okay, this is going nowhere. Whoop, here it comes again.
Pop right back up again. And it's weird. People have a knack for knowing when you're about to give up, and then they pop back in. So I want to talk a little bit about why this phenomenon happens. It's a phenomenon called intermittent reinforcement. So if you think about what you know about, let's say, dog training, that you want to teach your dog to sit. So you have a treat in your hand, the dog sits, and you give them the treat. You reward that positive behavior. So what they learn is every time I sit, I get a treat, and then eventually they'll learn to sit without the treat. So intermittent reinforcement, the experiment that I remember from freshman psychology, is that they did this work with chickens, and they would put a chicken in a cage, and there would be a button in the cage, and the chicken would peck the button and the food would come out. And so then what they would do is they would give the food every other time. So chicken pecks the button, food comes out, peck the button, no food comes out, peck it again, food comes out. So the chicken's like, comes out sometimes. Then they would randomize when the food came out. So maybe every 5th time, or maybe every 2nd time, or maybe every 10th time. Well, what they found, this was back in the day when animal rights were not such a big deal, they found that chicken would peck itself to death, hoping that maybe this is the time the food is going to come. And so what that teaches us is that getting those little breadcrumbs is such a positive motivator, and we will keep on trying and trying and trying to get the desired result because maybe this is the time. And so when someone breadcrumbs you, maybe you text them 5 times and on the 6th time they text you back. Well, guess what? Next time you're going to text them 6 times because that's when you think you're going to get the return text. And so you just keep hoping that maybe this is the time. So that is such a powerful motivator. And so what we would say to you is, do not peck yourself to death trying to get this person's attention.
And we do support PETA. We just want to put that out there.
Yeah, like do not keep trying and trying and trying. If somebody's not reciprocating in an equal way, let it go, friend.
I have a question about that. I love the research behind that, and I had heard something about that. That's cool, but that what the breadcrumb you get is interesting to me. So the breadcrumb you get, is it just enough and important enough to keep you in it? I mean, I wonder if people actually even look at the content of the breadcrumb. So for instance, if this was coming at me and I think, well, I haven't heard from him, and then all of a sudden when I do, it's, hey, I'm so sorry, I've been away, I've been gone for a long time, I was really busy at work, snowed under, whatever, how are you doing? Then all of a sudden, if you really want it, you think, well, that's a reason why. I mean, that explains all of it.
Of course they disappeared for a month. They were busy at work. Girl, that is crazy talk. That person could not find 30 seconds to text you in an entire month. That is just not true.
I think that everybody needs to hear that.
Yeah.
That even if you're traveling, and you just have to think about it through your own personal lens, is your day ever so crazy, to your point, that if you really wanted to connect with somebody, you don't have that 30 seconds to say, it's crazy over here, really going to connect with you. Let's do it on, I'm thinking about you, and I'm going to be free on Monday, and we're going to connect.
Yes, absolutely. And so people, we find time and money for the things we want to find time and money for. If I want to find time to send someone a text, I will absolutely find time for that. There is a time when I'm going to have to go to the bathroom, and while I'm sitting down to come, I can send you a text.
You just busted yourself. You know that. You just busted yourself.
I sure did.
Oh, Miss, I don't have time to return the text.
I don't even make that excuse. I just say I'm not that great at returning texts.
That's chicken. It's a chicken thing this time. Those chickens are going to come home to roost.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point. Oh,
well, at least
we can just edit that part out.
No, hell no. We're keeping it in, Jordan. It's staying in, Jordan. Keep it in. It is a good lead into, then there's this other one that's just what you call the once a month texter or something.
Yeah, like they're not
at another level.
You along. They're just drunk and bored and sending you a text in the middle of the night. Yeah, so don't fall for that. Don't get strung along by that. That's bad news. The other thing, kind of going back to this, like, how do you interpret, are you even looking at the content of the text? People go through all kinds of crazy gyrations. For example, this is one that I've heard, fairly frequently, like, my ex's best friend just followed me on Instagram, so they must be talking about me. My ex must still be interested in me. I hear that all the time from people. It's like, what? Don't make an assumption that means your ex is still thinking about you, and don't get strung along and don't get sucked into the emotion of that and adding meaning to that. It might not mean anything at all.
Nope. It probably doesn't.
Probably doesn't. Probably doesn't. And another way that I think people get pulled in to something that's not going to be good for them is if you've broken up with someone and they want to see you one more time for closure. I know we're like a little bit down a rabbit trail here, but I will tell you, as a therapist, you do not need to see someone for closure. This is a myth that people make up, like, well, we got to talk one more time in person. We can't have closure over the phone. Or it's like, no, if you were breaking up with that person, one more time is just going to create chaos. It's going to create confusion for you. It's not creating closure. There's no such thing.
No, we touched on this before, that closure happens in therapy. It's just my opinion about that, is that, yes, I do believe that when you break up with somebody and you may not be at the same place that they are on your ability to understand exactly what all happened, that the way they are viewing where it went wrong or why it doesn't work may not jive with what you're thinking or feeling about it. But I just don't think you accomplish anything from trying to go back in with that person to get on the same page with them about that. It's probably why you're not working out anyway. I feel like that happens with your therapist, where you kind of, you work through, like, why is this so unsettling for me? And they help you find closure.
Yeah. Just to be clear, we're talking about you getting closure within yourself.
Yes.
That you think that's going to happen with the other person, but what do you think that the other person's going to say something to you and you're going to be like, oh yeah, now I understand why we're broken up? Like, no, that never happened. Like, oh, now I get, why you behave badly. No, you're never going to think that. So don't even try. Not going to happen. So don't get strung along. Don't get sucked into continuing to have contact with that person because you think it's going to give you closure.
And this intermittent reinforcement, yes. And I think it sort of connects to that a little bit, is just sometimes we want any little piece that we think gives us reason to hope to stay in it or attached. I mean, you know more about this than I do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any little tattered shard of that person. We just want access to like one tiny little part of them, but it doesn't work. Don't do it. Run away.
Go.
Yeah. Because there is this concept of unfinished business is hard for our brains to get around. We don't like the idea that there's something unfinished out there. It may not be finished for you, but if the other person has broken up with you, it's finished for them. So you got to let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think sometimes people beat themselves up for this because it is really easy to keep getting pulled back in. And I want to say, like, you're not being dumb, you're being human. And you also need to practice taking care of yourself. That if you feel worse after these interactions, that's a good sign that you should probably stop doing it.
I like that. You're not being dumb, you're just being human. Because a lot of this is about loneliness and people wanting to connect. And that strong desire. I mean, trust me, what I hear about the gyrations that people go through on the dating apps, you must really, really want to connect to do all the things that I hear that people have to do in order to slog through that shit pile. And so I think it represents the fact that people really do, they're looking for a connection. And that if something begins to feel that way to you, or just a little bit of it feels that way, then it can feel good. It feels hopeful.
Yes. It does. It feels hopeful until it doesn't. So if something's continuing to make you feel good, then keep doing it. But the minute it starts making you feel bad about yourself, you really need to reevaluate.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is something in here that is probably related to attachment styles, which could be a whole episode in and of itself. But people who have anxious attachment styles, which if you imagine anxious attachment are people that need to be clingy and that are worried that you're going to back up. People who have avoidant attachment styles are afraid that you're going to get too close, so they back up. So if you imagine how these two attachment styles find each other, it's pretty interesting. So if we're having an interaction and you start to feel insecure, you move a tiny step closer to me. Well, that scares me if I'm avoidant, so I take a tiny step back to create more space, which makes you feel more anxious, so you scoot closer. And so this sort of intermittent reinforcement keeps those attachment styles locked in to each other. And it doesn't feel good for either person because one person's consistently feeling overwhelmed or feeling engulfed by the other person, and the anxiously attached person is constantly feeling like they're not close enough or like you're slipping away from them. So don't let those little breadcrumbs keep you sucked into that cycle.
It seems like, again, app dating really adds an element of quick confusion in this area, because think about it, that dynamic, which I've certainly seen in play when you're face to face with somebody, and even a little bit down the road where you're still doing that, but you've had dates with one another, you begin to think that maybe it's going to be something, but there's that going on. This beginning to just try to open the door to going out on a date or meeting in person, and that's in the background, is I don't know how anybody ever dates.
Yeah, it's true. It is not for the weak, as we all know. You got to be a hardy soul to be out there in the dating bee.
Well, it also, again, I think part of it runs through all of our episodes is you can't control the other person, what they're doing, what they're good at, their mental health issues or challenges or whatever those things are. You can only control you understanding these things, knowing yourself well enough, knowing when you are susceptible to certain things. And again, just because you're susceptible to something doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you a weak person. Knowing it is important so that you see it coming at you and you realize, this is what I'm getting sucked into, this vortex of this breadcrumbing, intermittent thing. And I just have to back the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's time to take a step back and realize that you're not really getting anything from them. You know, going back to the sort of social media thing, if you see that someone who's been breadcrumbing you watches your Instagram story, that gives you a little rush sometimes, like, oh, they're paying attention, they watch my story. Girl, that is surveillance. That is not intimacy.
I love it.
From afar, you're doing that's some stalker shit right there.
Lawyer.
Oh, yeah. They don't want to engage with you. They just want to see what you're up to. And how does that feel? Like, give yourself a minute to think, this isn't a positive sign. This is actually something kind of negative about that person. They don't want to talk to me. They just want to watch what I'm doing on my Instagram story. That's creepy.
Mm-hmm. It is creepy. And if you're drawn to it, you got to think about that.
Go talk to your therapist.
Go to it. That's right. Dr. Serica.
And if you don't have one, you should get one. So I want to talk about something that plays into this whole getting strung along thing, is that sometimes we take a little walk down memory lane. We have these kind of emotional artifacts that we cling to after a relationship. One example would be going through your text thread with somebody and reading back all the texts that y'all exchanged with each other, trying to make sense of it or trying to call out something that you might have missed along the way.
Yeah. So, yes.
Do you have some experience with this that you want to share with us?
No.
I'm sure you do have a little look on your face that I'm curious about. We're not allowed to talk about it?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I can vouch for the fact that sometimes those are hard to let go of, and
Yes.
and that they do keep you in a place that is not healthy, and that I do have some past experience.
Listeners, I'm going to get back with y'all about this. I had a discussion with Rachel. So, but in addition to text messages, like what are some other ways that either you have sort of walked down memory lane or that you've seen other people do that?
Well, music is a big one. And I a lot of people share playlists, and that keeping the playlist is, especially like if it, you need to tear it apart and maybe move those songs around to other playlists. But you've got this whole playlist you're going to listen to, and then you're just going to sink into the whole situation. Not good.
Yeah. Remember that night we listened to that whole playlist? That's what you're doing with yourself. It's not a good thing. Don't do it. At least put it on shuffle.
I like that, shuffle.
That's right. But I think also like looking back at photos, looking back through your social media, or even being a little stalkery and looking at the other person's social media. But I think this is really a way that people use nostalgia as sabotage, because you're not feeling better afterward. It's not like you look through all these things and you're like, oh man, those were some really great times. You read through the text or look at the photos and then you're heartbroken all over again. So don't let yourself get pulled into that.
Yeah. And it's not helpful if you're not dating that person and you're trying to date.
Yeah.
That is not helpful, because it just keeps your vibe messy.
Mm-hmm. Your energy is going towards someone that's no longer your person, and that detracts from finding someone who might be your person. So yeah, just try to steer clear of that, because I think what happens is sometimes we romanticize these scraps of conversations or scraps of photos when what we're really craving is being connected with somebody, and that's not getting you there.
Yeah, the connection piece is big. I think people they are craving connection and sometimes get desperate, and I think mistake that for whenever they're not getting that feeling that they once got from that situation. And it's the only piece of that they're getting. Yeah. I think that really makes it hard, because you're so desperately wanting to feel it again. And so you're just going back to where you got it until you get it.
Yeah. Yep. But I think you're also cutting yourself off from the potential of finding it again with someone else, or maybe finding it at all with someone else if you never had it with that person in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have found yourself in that situation where you're being breadcrumbed by someone, or you're having a hard time letting something go when it's over, what are some ways that people can actually like really start to cut this thing off?
Well, you're asking the girl that does cut the thing off. And
Rachel is an expert at this, y'all, so pay attention.
I'm just saying that I'm not a good person to ask for, obviously, the very superficial things, the breadcrumbing, and because I wouldn't tolerate that. That's just like not a thing. And even if somebody, I probably just, would cut that off pretty quickly. You have to do you. And so if for me, it'd be the one text, like you said. For somebody else, it might be two.
And what about continuing to follow them on social media, or continuing to allow them to follow you on social media?
I think you need to stop doing it.
Yep.
And that's hard.
It's a rabbit hole that is not going to make you feel better. knowing like or hoping that maybe they're seeing you posting these great vacation pics or looking at them and seeing their vacation pics. So I would say step number one is unfollow them on social media and cut them off from your social media.
Yeah. And eventually you might be able to add them back in if you guys get to a different place where you have crossed that bridge to a friendship thing. And if it doesn't ever go there, then probably then they're not meant to be on your feed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this is really about setting boundaries with yourself more than even setting boundaries with the other person. But it's really telling yourself, like, stop checking to see if this person viewed your story. Stop checking their story. If they're sending you messages and you just want to be cool or you want them to think that everything's okay, then you're going to reply. Like, no, stop doing that. This is a person that you don't need in your life. It sounds like they're not going to be good for you.
That's some excellent, very valuable advice given right there by a professional. I have nothing more to add to that. It's true.
And I think that if you're someone who gets tempted to reply, or if you're someone maybe who drunk texts someone at the end of the night, then
you know you've done that. You know you've done it.
I'm gonna do it on here. That's fine. This is why we don't drink. So, yep, you got to stop yourself from doing that. But if you are someone who cannot stop yourself from doing that, you're going to have to delete this person's number from your phone. Don't keep it in there.
You have to stop drinking and you've got to delete them.
That's right. That's right. You're not getting sober. Just call me up, girl. Oh, gosh. Yeah. So anyway, so you may end up having to delete their number from their phone. You may end up having to block them if they won't stop contacting you, or if it's upsetting to your equilibrium. Don't keep someone around that's not making you feel good about yourself. So do what you need to do. Maybe you need to delete the photos. Maybe you need to delete the playlist, or like you said, disperse the playlist into other areas so all those songs are in one area. But whatever you need to do to take care of yourself, take the step, take the action.
What about actually just saying to them, I don't want to have this communication with you anymore? I mean, you can control the delete, but there's also, it seems like a place up front to just say, hey, I don't want any of this with you anymore.
Yes. And I will say, I've seen people just run right over that boundary, on both sides. Even the person who says, I don't want contact with you anymore, they'll get drunk and contact the person. Or they'll get, they'll feel vulnerable and respond to a text from this person. So yes, you should absolutely tell someone that. And if it keeps happening, then you may have to take, some more concrete action, like blocking someone.
So there are two big things. Don't listen to the playlist and text them. And don't get drunk and text them.
That's right. Those are very simple steps, kids. Just listen to those two pieces of advice.
Those are weak spots.
Yes. And, going back to something you keep hearing us say, it's okay to want clarity about a relationship. And if someone's breadcrumbing you, ask them up front, what's going on? I haven't heard from you in a month and now you're reaching out. Tell me more about why you're reaching out. Because the truth is, you are too dateable to settle for those crumbs.
I love that.
Okay, well, let's talk about the takeaways that we hope folks will get from today's episode. The first one that I would like to say is create accountability for yourself so that you can stop responding to people who are not emotionally available for you.
Yeah. Also, we talked about loneliness and, just thinking about other ways to fulfill that void and your loneliness that are, healthy things for you to do and that give you some satisfaction there.
Yes, because this isn't one of those things. Following someone's breadcrumbs does not actually alleviate your loneliness. It makes you feel more lonely at the end of it. So it might give you a little rush at the beginning, but it's not a real fix for that.
Yeah. And then we, of course, talked about the physical and emotional artifacts. I still have a little bit of a rub on the whole playlist thing, but I can do workarounds on that.
We're going to have Rachel report back to us about how things went with deleting her playlist. And for the love, please don't just sit around and play those songs over and over while you're home sad drinking wine. That's not going to make it better.
Then you're in two big traps right there.
That's right.
You're drunk and you're listening to the playlist.
And then the next thing you know, you're going to be drunk from them and it starts that cycle all over again. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just overall, remember to set and maintain boundaries for yourself. And if you need to do that with accountability from another person, then do that. So if you have ever kept that door open with someone, even when you knew it wasn't going anywhere, we really want to hear about it. So please tell us about it in the comments here on this podcast, or you can send us a DM on Instagram at Dateable AF.
Yes, we do want to hear from you. We know that these topics, that you're hearing about it from our point of view, and we love to hear about it from your point of view. So please
absolutely
reach out.
Yes. Yeah, we've been getting some really great questions and comments, which is so fun for us. As soon as one of us gets one, we text the other one with it, and we're excited to talk about it. So please keep sending those in. Well, that is a wrap for today. And if this episode made you laugh or if it made you cringe, will you please send it to one friend who you think might enjoy it? This sharing is really helping us grow. We're working on getting our numbers up. And so we need you. We need you to listen. We need you to share.
And also, we know a lot of you are vacationing, and we get to see where all of our listeners are, and our listeners are all over the world, hugely diverse around the U.S. So please listen to our podcast during your vacations, because we'd like to see another pin on the map from some exotic country that you happen to be traveling in.
Yes, we love that. And we will be talking about your questions and comments on our after party episode. So please don't forget to tune in for that. Those are just short little bonuses that we're posting in between our big episodes so we can respond to your questions and comments. So next week, we are going to be discussing the topic, all she said was, hey, and now you're planning a wedding.
Hey, there's hey, and then there's hey.
Exactly. And this is definitely the second one, like, hey.
Yes.
Well, as always, thank you so much for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex. Stay dateable
AF.